Well, hi there. It's Monday and time for another Monday Mastery. I'm author and dating coach Rick Sodebeer, and I'm here to talk about dating and relationship issues. And today, I want to talk about some observations that I've been making over the past couple of years, but I've been refining those, and it's about talking about the three basic types of daters, and that's an accidental dater, a desperate dater, and a determined dater. And we'll get into those all here in just a couple of minutes. But want to welcome you all. It's a beautiful day here in where am I? In Foley, Foley, Alabama. I've been traveling so much lately, 3,000 miles last week, and it's a little hard. At my age, it's a little harder to get back into normal day to day life after so much travel in such a short period of time. But anyway, let's get going, and today we'll answer any of your questions that come up. So. If you have any questions, please feel free to pop them into the chat, and I will do my best to pick them up as they come in and run with it. So today, anyway, let's talk about the three types of daters, and again, I've been working on this for a while, and just over the last week or so, things have kind of really come together and gelled, and to give a good description. Now we could probably break these three categories down into further subcategories, but and you might even be able to combine two of them together so that you really only have two categories. But I kind of like the idea of three. And let's start with the accidental dater. The accidental dater is going to be the person that let me just pop my notes up here. They're going to be the person that could be identified any number of ways. They they could end up with dates without even working at it or without even trying. But very commonly, they're going to be people that have a very negative attitude towards dating. They may have a negative attitude towards the opposite sex. They may hold a grudge or anger or animosity towards their ex. So consequently, they don't trust anybody new that they date. They associate anybody they date or anybody of the opposite sex with their ex, and they may not recognize their emotional triggers, and the emotional triggers are going to be those things that just tick them off or cause them to get upset, and they may not even be paying attention to the reason what's triggering that anger or that upset. And they don't necessarily, the accidental dater doesn't necessarily need to be angry, but it is one of the characteristics, and it's a common it's a common characteristic or common trait, because a lot of these folks actually get dates by accident, and it's people have to work past that negativity, or maybe they find somebody that's just as negative, and the negatives are attracting each other, and or it's what you focus on is what you're attracting. And if you're continually negative in your thought process, well, that's what's going to come across, and those are the types of people that you're going to find. It's very simple. It's a reticular activating system that kicks in, and it causes us to focus on or to see the things that we're focusing on. Now, the accidental dater is one that doesn't work real hard at it. If they get a date, it's almost out of sheer luck. They they're going to be more likely to use the line, "You wouldn't want to go out on a date, would you?" And you wouldn't want to go for coffee, would you? No, I didn't think so. Okay, and so it's their approach is going to be weak. Their efforts are going to be weak. They're going to be haphazard. They're going to be occasional. They may go through spurts of dating and then have a poor experience and say, "Oh, I'm done. I'm done with this. I can't handle this." And so a it's a constant struggle. So if that's something that you recognize in yourself or you recognize in the people that you're dating, be aware that there's not a whole lot of wholehearted effort in their dating process. These are probably also these are not probably these are likely also the people that are going to put a half-hearted effort into creating an online dating profile. They're the profiles that are incomplete. They may not have the the essay portion filled out. They'll have very few details about themselves filled out. They'll have a couple of pictures, and those pictures may not even be great pictures. They may have pictures with multiple people on the profile picture, and it's like, okay, is this a pick and choose on who I get to date, or do I get to date all three of you, or what is it? So it's just a basic lack of attention, a basic lack of effort, and again, most of these dates happen by accident. Now you may think, well, I put effort into it, and I worked at my profile, but really you didn't. You may have dropped a few hints to somebody you met at a social, and you get lucky, or you get, yeah, I guess you get lucky in the sense that somebody had some interest in you, and you ended up on a date. Those dates, and I'm not saying that the accidental dater can't find their soulmate, but they're very low on the totem pole. And even below the accidental daters there are some bottom dwellers, and these are more likely going to be guys that are just out looking for sex, and play by the 3-date rule, which is I take you out 3 times and I expect you to go to bed with me, or the 5-date rule, which is the same date, same rule. It's just 5 dates. So and there, if you haven't, ladies, if you haven't experienced it, there are guys out there that still play by that rule. And if you come across somebody like that, that should be an instant sign that you say, next. These bottom dwellers or bottom feeders are just looking for pure satisfaction. Any relationship they have is all about them and about nobody else. So if you got any questions, or comments, just drop them in the chat there, and we'll go over those. Then there's the desperate dater. The desperate dater is going to be the one that's most often characterized by they come across as being clingy. And there can be a fine line between the desperate and the determined dater. But the desperate dater is going to be the more likely a clingy person. They're insecure. They may have codependency issues. There may be any number of things that cause them to have an insecurity about themselves, that I have to be with someone. I can't be alone. They haven't, and I see this a lot in widowed men. The widowed men are very quick to or many times can be very quick to jumping into a new relationship, and it's they can also be classified or characterized as serial monogamists. They may jump from one relationship to another. When one relationship comes to an end within a couple of weeks, maybe a month, they're already in another relationship. So it's you have to be aware. You have to be you have to pay attention to how these people are reacting. When you date somebody, how long ago was your last relationship, and what caused that to end? If you're talking to somebody that was in a 20-year marriage and they're out 2 weeks after their divorce, and it may not even be divorced yet, they're separated and already out dating. I can't tell you how many people I've run into that over the years that as soon as they're separated, the divorce papers have been filed, but they don't have their court date or haven't finalized anything. They're out dating and they're already. I don't want to say hooking up, but hooking up is one way to put it, in another relationship. They haven't even taken time to get the divorce, and they're already out looking. And it's a problem. Because and it doesn't make any difference if you're a lady or a man. That if you're dating somebody like that that's still not divorced, you're dating a married person. And odds are, if you're dating somebody like that, it's a situation that you're the first one out of the box, or you're the rebound relationship, and odds are it's not going to work for you. And this is most common if one of you's been divorced for a while or widowed for a while, and then the other person comes along, is all excited about dating and is all hot to trot for a new relationship. Well, if you're the first one that they've dated in a while, then odds are that relationship isn't going to last. Hey, Eddie, thanks for joining in. Let me put up your comment here. Eddie says, when I was a desperate dater back in the day, it wasn't because of insecurities in myself. I was more worried about being married before my dad passed. Then something just snapped, and I realized I wasn't meeting quality men, and it was probably coming off as desperate. Absolutely. And that brings up an interesting subject, Addie, because it sounded like you were dating for the wrong reasons. You were trying to find that relationship, that your next relationship or your next marriage, for the wrong reasons. You wanted to be married before your dad passed. And there's and while we'd all like our parents to be happy and enjoy the fact that we're taken care of or we're with someone, we can't do it for those reasons. We have to find that right person, and that just takes time. Now, the more effort you put into it, the sooner that will happen. And I think last week I shared with you a gentleman I know that spent about 90% of his free time searching for his soulmate. And lo and behold, within 6 months after him telling me that he spent most of his free time looking for a soulmate, he found her. And 6 months after that, they were married, and they appear to be very, very happy. And I think they're about 1 year into their marriage. So it can be done, and it doesn't have to take years and years and years. It just depends on how much effort you're putting in. Addie says, I've never been married. I'd like my dad to be able to walk his only daughter down the aisle. Gotcha. And that's honorable, but again, you have to find that right person. And Addie, you and I have talked about this one on one, and in the Dating Made Simple Academy work group coaching sessions. So it's when you're focusing on dating for the right reasons, things will be easier. They're or they'll be simpler, and they'll get easier too. And it's when you date to try to see your to try to have your dad walk you down the aisle before it's too late. Again, that's honorable, but that's I think that's every girl's dream, is to have their dad walk them down the aisle. But you have to make sure you make good choices. And Addie says, I was putting in a lot of effort dating multiple men before, and to me, that's what made me feel like I was being a desperate dater. And that can be one of the characteristics. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're desperate when you're doing that, Addie. That might actually fall into the determined dater, where you're where you're dating from a standpoint of, okay, I'm going to date these. I'll pick the number three. I'm dating these three guys right now. I don't know which one, if any, I'm going to like, but there's until you have a conversation about being exclusive, there's nothing to say that you can't date more than one person. It becomes more difficult, and there's more details to keep separated. You might need to take notes, but that's okay. Especially if you found somebody online, and you can go back to your conversations, your notes, but after you move that conversation to a telephone conversation and to personal meeting in person, then you have to remember who you're talking to, or the conversations you've had in the past, to try to keep those things straight. And very possibly you can make mistakes, and as long as they understand they're not the only guy that you're dating, that's okay. Hey, Andrea, thanks for joining in. Andrea says, Addie, I want my dad to walk me down the aisle, but I know he wants to be taken care of and happy first. I think that means he wants you to be happy and taken care of first. Hey, Terry, thanks for joining in. And Addie says, notes. I had a spreadsheet with, I love it. And all. I was busy. Well, Addie, there's nothing wrong with that. And that leads me into the determined dater. And the determined dater is one that's you set a goal, and you may even set a time frame. That I want to be in a relationship, and I want to find my soulmate within the next 12 to 18 months. So that means that you've got to take dating very seriously. It means more than likely no breaks. It means that you may be dating multiple people at one time, because quite honestly, you don't know where you're going to find that extraordinary relationship or your soulmate. And there is something about dating multiple people at one time, and it's not like you're going to be doing that continually. It's going to be, you might date three or four people at one time, and they're going to be dropping off, and you'll see one will drop off, two will drop off, and you'll replace one or two, but eventually you'll find, hey, this guy has potential, or this gal has potential, and let's see where this goes, and then you stop dating the other people. But it doesn't it causes you to be, I don't want to say hyper focused, but it causes you to be very focused on what's important to you, and not waste a lot of time in wrong relationships. And what I find is, if we're not highly focused on what we want and what's important to us in our next relationship, is that we can kind of plod along and say, yeah, I'll date this guy for a little bit and see what it's like. And even though right from the beginning, hey Phil, thanks for joining in, and even though right from the beginning you may recognize, yeah, he doesn't have quite everything that I'm looking for. It may be, whatever it might be. It might even be that you're not that attracted to him, or to her. And when you're starting off the box with, or starting out of the box with warning signs, or red flags, or there, all of your must-haves are not showing up. That becomes a problem, and you end up wasting time. And then it comes across as being, oh, this is such drudgery. And anything worth having is worth doing right. And that's why and a friend of mine works with widows and widow. She's a widow, and she works with widows and widowers, primarily widows. And she was telling me about one of the ladies in her group that was very determined to find her next husband. And lo and behold, after about 18 months, she found a guy, and they recently got married. And it's been a period of time. I think it took about a year, maybe a little bit less. But when you know what you're looking for, when you're set on what's important to you and what's not, you can date much more quickly than you can by accident, or randomly. The dating by accident is the hardest way to do. Is the hardest dating process you can possibly use. And sadly, more people than not use or use the accidental dating process more than they do even the losing a even than the even more than the desperate daters. Desperate daters, we all can tell, they're the clingy ones. They're the ones that are going to try to do everything possible to make a relationship out of nothing. And if you find somebody like that, whether he's a guy or whether he's a lady, those are the ones that you need to walk away from, because that should be a red flag. Unless, and the only caveat here is, they have none of your deal breakers and they have all of your must-haves. But even then, there has to be a certain level of chemistry. And when you get far enough down the road in dating somebody, and see, this is another benefit of being a determined dater, is as you gain experience, dating does become a little easier for you. You don't get as nervous on the first date. You don't get as excited about it either, because you've been on 20 or 30 first dates before this. But it's like anything else. The more you do it, the easier it gets. Things just flow a little easier for you. You can be more natural. You don't have to be hyper vigilant about what comes out of your mouth, and you're not necessarily trying to put on an extra good air, come across in a certain way. You're just being natural because this is all ground that you've covered in the past. And Terry says, I know too many desperate daters and random daters. I learned to be more intentional and picky. And that's a great characteristic, Terry. Thank you. That's a great characteristic is about being intentional and being picky about who you date. Now that doesn't mean you can't go out and date people that might not be a good fit for you. You might recognize that, but at the same time, you may find something, some characteristic about them or some trait that you say, I really like that in a person, and it opens up new possibilities for you. It might open up doors to dating people you never thought you might be attracted to, and that's important to remember also. So just because somebody might not appear to be your type on the surface, they might surprise you. So you it's always important to date with an open mind and to search with an open mind. I'm going through working on some marketing and some messaging information here. And one of the things that I find is that people tell me that they don't know to Hattie says, I'm picky as heck nowadays, and that's okay. And that's as it should be, Addie. It's like you and Terry and Andrea have gone through the Dating Made Simple Academy. It's important to understand that picky is good. That you have the right to want everything that you want, and those wants, needs, and desires come from your personal experiences. And the determined dater is someone who's going to take all of that information, take all of that, and be active. Be proactive in finding their soulmate. Whether and you this is not. I'm hoping that I'm coming across that this is not a one-sided effort. That your soulmate's out there looking for you too. This is not. You're not out sowing seeds to reap a harvest later. This is something that your soulmate is out there doing or should be doing the same thing that you're doing. And it's to step back to what I started talking about is that one of the characteristics, or one of the things that I see, is so many people, especially the accidental daters that say, oh, there's no good men left, or I can't, I don't know where to look. And with that kind of an attitude, they're automatically closing themselves off to possibilities. They're also the ones that are likely to say, online dating is terrible. Well, there are going to be issues. I just absolutely guarantee it. Right now I'm in a totally new area for me, and in the last 3 months I've met and talked to about 4 or 5 different women. And most of those are one and done conversations. And that's it. You'd think in an area that's completely new, there would be a whole lot of opportunities, or at least what I would think were opportunities. But all of the profiles that I'm seeing are extremely low. Not all of them. There's been a couple of very high quality profiles, but there is such a lack of effort that people are putting in. They are just accidental daters. I don't want to date somebody like that. I want to date. I want to find somebody that's serious about finding their soulmate. There's just not doing this haphazardly, and it's imperative that as and whether you use online dating or not, you have to, whatever you do, you have to do it well. And the first few times you do it, it's not going to be done well. It's not going to be 100%. But the more effort that you put in, the easier it will get for you. It's, and I can't, whether, and again, whether you choose to do online dating or not, you have to get out and be social. Even if you're using online dating, you have to get out and do things. You have to participate. Even if, and this is particularly true for ladies, even if that means doing something on your own, traveling on your own, and you can use the excuse that, well, it's not as easy for a woman. It's you can make it as difficult or as easy as you want. It's a matter of mindset. And so if it's a matter of going out, make sure you know where you're at. You make sure that you watch who you're around, and just pay attention. There are online sites, or there are blogs, there's information on YouTube and on Google and on how to be safe when you go out on your own. There's all kinds of safety procedures that you can take. Anything from mace to concealed carry to watching if you're out in a bar situation, that listening to music, that your drink is covered, and that you never leave a drink unattended. There's a lot of different things that you have to be aware of. We just live in a goofy, dumb society right now that there are people out there that will do stupid things. But you have to be aware of it. You have to be one step ahead. It's the same thing goes with online dating. You have to understand what the scams look like. You have to understand how scammers operate. And once you understand that, you remove a lot of the risk that comes along with online dating. Even to the point of how your profile is written. It's when you write a good profile, you're going to initially not attract the scum, or the bottom feeders, or the scammers, or the fishers, just because they recognize a certain level of intelligence or awareness. If you come across as being strong and independent, they're much less likely to target you. But if you come across as weak and needy, or emotionally a mess, then it's game on for those guys. This is in some of these scam outfits. They'll have what are called bullpens, where people are in lined up with computer after computer after computer, and they're all just working these computers, having chats with you, and they can run these chats for 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, 12 weeks, 6 months, and you never know it. They've always got a reason for not showing up. They've always got a reason that they can't meet. Then they start dropping hints about needing money or an emergency, and that should be your first cue. When they say, "Oh, I've got a business emergency, I need some financial help," well, that shouldn't be you. They shouldn't be coming to you. They should be going to their banker. They should be going to their business associates, not somebody they're talking to online. So you guys, hopefully you guys are all smart enough to recognize that right off the bat. But some of these guys, and they're not all guys. Some of them are women, and they're really slick. So but it has to be on you. And I don't want to put the fear of God into anyone, but you just have to be smart about dating. And online dating is, if people tell me that I want an organic relationship. Well, how do you start an organic relationship? You got to talk to somebody. And how does that happen? So many women tell me, well, I won't go out to the bar, and I won't go out to, live events without a group of girls. Well, how do you expect to talk to somebody or start to expect an organic conversation if you're not open to and available? And I say available because, ladies, when you're in a large group or with several women, it makes it almost an impenetrable impenetrable curtain that guys just can't get through, because you're talking to, not only do we want to talk to you, but your girlfriends are there watching, and more times, out of innocence, they'll dissuade you from talking to any guy that has an interest in you. So you have to weigh those things. You have to be safe, but you also have to get out and do things. And one of the ways of doing that is meeting somebody online, having a brief chat online, and then moving it to a phone conversation, seeing if there's some connection or commonalities there, and then moving it to a conversation. Well, when can we meet? Let's, because I don't know about you all, but I don't want to drag this on forever. I want to get to meet you and see if there's any chemistry in person. And, that's how it develops organically. So, the argument that, no, I'm not going to do it online because that's not organic. Well, what happens what happens if you meet somebody that through work, that's not necessarily an organic meeting. Is you've got other things that have brought you together. Well, okay, so what? Let's look at all the opportunities, and let's use all of the available tools presented to us, or that we have available. And maybe online dating is not right for you. I'm not saying that you all have to go out and do the online thing. I just find it very, very helpful, very beneficial for a lot of reasons. It allows you to meet people that you wouldn't normally meet in your daily walk through life. And then beyond that, how creative can you be in trying to meet somebody in person? I had somebody tell me the other day that they didn't want to, because I've mentioned several times, you can strike up a conversation with somebody in a grocery store. And she said, I'm not going to troll guys in a grocery store. Well, it's not a matter of trolling guys. It's not a matter of tracking them down. It's a matter of, if you happen to see an attractive guy that is not wearing a ring and appears to be single, that you might have an attraction to, you might strike up a conversation. And it could be as simple as, hey, I don't shop here often. Do you know where the laundry detergent is? Whatever it is you might be looking for. I'm looking for a can of sardines. I wouldn't even know where to look for sardines, but that's not something I eat, but it's something that there are any number of ways that you can strike up a conversation. And there are there are ways of just breaking into conversation that are very innocent, very random, and the thing you have to keep in mind is, I know some of you are shy, and some of you are just don't are not inclined to start a conversation with a complete stranger. But let's think about it. How much danger does that really present? How many of you have ever had a conversation that with someone that you've never met before, and it actually went pretty well? And how many of you have had a conversation with someone that it started out okay and then crashed? I've had more than my share of those. But guess what? I'm still here to share it with you. I'm still here. I'm still alive. I've lived through it. I may have been embarrassed, and I many times more than I can count. I've embarrassed myself, saying something stupid and say, oh well, that blew that one. And Addie says, you have to ask for something that might be hard to find, otherwise he'll think you can't read the signs above the aisles. Well, there's that. But you get what I'm saying, and it you might be standing at the deli counter and saying, "Hey, have you ever tried this?" I've never tried. I usually get hooked on whatever, and this is me personally. When I go to a restaurant, I find something I like, and that's what I get every time that I go to that restaurant. When I go to the grocery store, I pick up certain items that I know that I like, and rarely do I step outside my comfort zone that way. And if you're standing at a deli counter, or standing at the bakery, say, "Hey, have you ever tried this?" I normally get this, but I'm looking at this, and strike up a conversation, and it may lead nowhere. It may just lead nowhere, but it's if nothing else, it's practice on how to step out of your comfort zone and start talking to people. Because being shy, I can be as shy as anyone. I can be a wallflower in a snap of a finger. There are days that my introvert self just comes out, and I can be in the midst of a large group of people and not say boo. And there are times that in when I'm in those situations that I have to force myself and go introduce myself and say, "Hey, I'm Rick. I'm here. This is my first time," or "I'm just passing through. Is this a great place to eat?" Or whatever it is. Hey, Liz, thanks for joining in. Glad to see you're here. Liz says, I've had several conversations, and 9 out of 10, their wife walks up, but that's okay. I still talk to people, and that's okay. And Liz, watch for a wedding ring. Now, not all guys will wear wedding rings, because especially if they're in construction trades or something along that line, they may not wear a ring just for protection of their finger, and especially in construction trades or any place where they're using their hands, other than for writing. It's very easy to get a finger ripped off when it gets hooked on the ring. So, but that's one of the first things that I always do whenever I'm walking down the aisle of a grocery store. I'm looking at ring fingers. Ladies, do the same thing. Guys are, if they're married, they're generally going to be wearing their ring. So, Abby says, and yep, you've lived through it. Yes, I have. And Daddy says, exactly. I do look for rings, and and again, Liz, there are going to be guys that just don't wear them, And that's just a chance you have to take. And when the wife comes up, say, "Hi, it's so nice to meet you. I was just having a nice conversation with your husband." And so have a great evening. Um, yeah. So anyway, but those are the things, and shyness is something that we can tell ourselves, "Oh, I'm just so shy," and we can tell ourselves that, "No, I can't do that." But the reality is, you can, and it's all a matter of mindset. And when you have the correct mindset, there's very little that you cannot accomplish. There's very little that you cannot do. When you get yourself in a mindset that I'm going to find my soulmate, and if you put a deadline on it, the odds are you're going to get it done. But that also means you have to be actively, or you have to be an active participant. You have to be a determined dater. You can't just say, "Yep, I'm going to do this," and then not have any activity, not have any um, active participation in your dating life. And you have to be very cautious about taking breaks, because you can get really comfortable in taking a break, because yeah, I'm comfortable. I don't really want to put in the effort right now. And the longer you wait, you say, I'm getting really comfortable being single. I don't know. Do you really want to be with your soulmate, or no? And you have to ask that simple. And why do you want that relationship? Is it because you want to have that connection with somebody? Is it because there's a level of security? Is it because that you let's see, let me catch Addie's. Addie says, "I do tend to get comfortable when I'm on my breaks." It's very easy to get comfortable. And the key there, Addie, is to start making yourself uncomfortable, saying, "I'm alone. I don't have my soulmate here. And I know he's out there looking for me, but I can't find him when I'm not actively looking." You might stumble on him, or he might stumble upon you, but you have to be very active. And I think we can make up a lot of excuses to not be more active. We can make up a lot of excuses and tell ourselves, "Well, I don't have time right now. I'm really busy." Or in my case, I can give myself the excuse that, and I have to watch this, that I travel a lot. I'm this year I'm in Alabama for, let's see, December, January, February, March, for 4 months. And then I do some more traveling. I'll be in Michigan for 5 months, or maybe six. I don't know, whatever it works out to be this year. It's hard to find people when you're on the road, and you can't. You're not close. I've met a couple of ladies up in Tennessee that I'd love to meet, but right now they're not into a long distance relationship. So that, for me, that creates an issue, but it doesn't mean that I'm trying any less. There are it just means there are some barriers in my way that I have to overcome. And you all have to do the same thing. You have to overcome the barriers that are whatever barriers that you've, and most of them are going to be self-created, that you have to get past. Excuse me 1 second. Sorry about that. I was about to sneeze and didn't want to blow up the microphone. So anyway, it's a continual process until you find your soulmate. And there will be people that you'll start to date, that may start out to seem like the absolute right person, And you may date 3 months, you may date 6 months, but if you're paying attention, most of these things will, or most of the issues, most of the problems will manifest themselves in that amount of time. There will be a few things that you might get a year down the road, it might even be 2 years down the road. You might even be talking about marriage, then all of a sudden you realize that, nope, this is not the guy, or this is not the woman for me. And then you have to analyze, am I just being chicken, or is there something actually that's a red flag, or a warning sign, or something that's a deal breaker of mine, that's popping up after this amount of time. So you have to be very analytical about it, and it's not always easy, especially if you've been with somebody. I was just coaching a guy this afternoon on somebody that he's been dating kind of casually, and he knows it's not the woman that he wants to spend the rest of his life with, but he kind of likes her, but he's not wanting to say, yeah, this isn't the right relationship. So it's and I was trying to coach him on how to say, let's just move on, because anytime you hang on to a relationship like that, even though it's, you may have some good conversations, you may enjoy each other's company, but if it's not the right relationship, there's no point, absolutely no point in sticking around. You have these emotional anchors set here and there and everywhere, and it only distracts you from your actual mission, your actual desired goal of finding your soulmate. And it's so important to cut those anchors loose, and sometimes that means to ghost them, and and that can be hard. Other times it's just a matter of saying, yep, let's just walk away, and and move on, because this just isn't the right relationship. This isn't, I'm not feeling this is the connection, that the relationship that I'm looking for. And it can be just that simple. You don't have to argue with anyone. You don't have to fight with anyone. Just when you let your words out, stop. You don't have to explain. You don't have to add a because. Just saying, I'm just not feeling the connection, and this isn't the right relationship for me. And that's it. If they argue with you, obviously, it's any connection you had was more about them than it was about you. And that's always a good sign that you're dodging a bullet, because the relationship would eventually be all about them, and not a give and take between the two of you. Now, that being said, there are several things, and I've talked about several things that you can do. One of the things that I'd highly recommend, if you recognize yourself as being an accidental dater, or a desperate dater, and sometimes even a determined dater, because there are always ways that we can improve. But if you really identify with the accidental dater, maybe you have a chip on your shoulder about your ex. Maybe you've got a chip on your shoulder from some poor dates, or maybe you've had some bad experiences online, or maybe you find yourself as being needy or desperate, and not wanting to be alone, not being self-confident enough to live your life on your own. One of the things I'm going to really recommend is taking my course, Dating Made Simple Academy. And if and I'll post a link to that. I forgot to pull up the link here, but I'll post a link in here as soon as we're done. But the online dating academy is a program. It's about 40 videos long. It covers getting past any anger or negativity, leaving past relationships in the past, because they can't, other than learning from them, they're not going to do anything for you in the future. Worrying about or wondering where your ex is, or wondering, why you can't, why you haven't been able to find a date, why, carrying any of that negativity with you needs to be left in the past. You can be aware of it, you can be aware, learn what your triggers are, but leave the negativity in the past. Then learn what your must-haves and your deal breakers are, and learn what a soulmate looks like. Learn about different types of communication, verbal, physical, the body language, and what some of these different things mean, and then learn about how to. The last section is about dating 101. It's some of the very basics, creating a great or a stellar online dating profile. Some of the things that, ladies, you can do to take away some of the nervousness on the first dates. Something as simple as having a first date outfit, so that you know what you're going to do. And like I regularly preach, is that the first date should be coffee or cocktails. Don't make it a big deal. No movies, no big fancy dinners. Let's see if there's some commonalities or some connection there. And you can find that out in 20 or 30 minutes. If it's going really well, you can carry that on into dinner, or into a movie, or something else. Movies I generally don't recommend in the first date or so, just simply for the fact that you don't get to talk. And the whole idea is to talk and to get to know each other. But anyway, for those of you that might have an interest, I'll put a link up, and because you're watching tonight, I'll throw $100 off that course. But you get a number of worksheets. You get some swipe files, which are things that you that are there to enhance the course, and that help you gain a deeper understanding of not only yourself, but of dating and the entire dating process. So if any of you are interested in that, I'll post a link here in just a couple of minutes, and just let me know. And if you have any questions, send me a message. Send me a direct message, and I'll do what I can to answer it for you. So anyway, with that, I hope you guys have a great and blessed evening, and a great and blessed week. I keep forgetting it's Monday, and the week is just getting going. So I hope you all have a great and blessed week. I'll see you right here next Monday, and same bat channel, same bat cave behind me here. And we'll see what next week's topic is. Thanks, Addie. You too. Bye-bye, everyone. I love you. Talk to you next week.